By virtue of the powers conferred upon me as Vice-Chancellor of the University of Hare, I hereby consecute this congregation for conferring of degrees and the awarding of diplomas. You may be seated.
Thank you so much, Vice-Chancellor. Greetings on this auspicious occasion. My name is Hector Katurura. I will be your program director for this afternoon. As we are about to start, I now request Professor Reverend Niekerk to lead us in prayer.
Vice-Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I would like to start this event by reading a passage from Ecclesiastes chapter 11. Only 3 verses. You who are young, be happy while you are young, and let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. That is a very important part of the message this afternoon, that while you are young, those youthful days should also be happy days. And as most of you are still young and venturing on this journey of a career, make those years happy years, as they were here at university, enjoying every day. It should be filled with happiness, is what God intends us to have. Follow the ways of your heart and whatever your eyes see, but know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. Then, being a member of the Faculty of Health Sciences, the next verse is of primary importance to me, when God also intends us to have physical and psychological health. And it is written as follows: So then, banish anxiety from your heart and cast off the troubles of your body, for youth and vigor are meaningless. I wish each and every one of you a wonderful life venturing on this journey after university into the world of work and wherever you are going to be. I wish you many, many years of physical health and many, many years of mental health, as God intends it to be. May He bless each and every one of you, and may each and every one of you find the happiness and the joy He intends you to have. I wish you well. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your love and your grace. We thank you for this opportunity to give thanks for those years that you took care of each and every one of us. Whether still in youth or whether already in old age, we know that every day you began with us, and you guide us and you led us through those years like a father should, taking care of us and keeping us safe. Thank you that we could have been successful in our university studies, and that we are here today to celebrate this moment with one another, so that we can be appreciative of the life you gave us. My prayer is, O Lord, that you will keep each and every one of us in your heart, giving us physical and mental health, so that we can be strong and productive in the world of work and praise you with our lives. Bless this meeting here this afternoon, and keep each and every one of us safe on the roads back home. We pray this in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen.
We say
Thank you, choir. Thank you, Reverend Professor, for the profound words of wisdom and godly counsel. The Vice Chancellor will now address the congregation.
Thank you, Program Director. Thank you very much. First of all, I wish to welcome all of you this afternoon to this second session of today's graduation, spring graduation at the University of Fort Hare. We're here to celebrate. We're here to celebrate success, hard work, determination, and commitment. But before we talk about celebration, I just wish to acknowledge a few people. Some of them were here in the earlier session, and I wasn't able to welcome them, so I will again. There were representatives of the Hare Royal House. Prince Namashi was here leading them. I believe that he has left now. There was also Queen Nosize from the Kyali royal family. And there was also, and my mistake, I should have done this, there were also representatives of the Gauteng University of Fort Hare alumni chapter. They were here, some of them are still here. Dr. Klaas, Jongi Klaas, who's the chairperson of that chapter, was here. Dr. Nongogo was here, and of course the speaker this afternoon, Mr. Bonakele, is also part of that chapter, just to acknowledge them and their ongoing support to the university. To acknowledge also members of council, we have Dr. Lupwana this afternoon representing council, the council of the university. And of course, internally, we have lots of people to acknowledge. The Deputy Vice Chancellors, Professors Majova and Professor Hendricks, the deans here on my right of the 6 faculties, the Dean of Research, the Dean of Students, but very, very importantly for this afternoon's purpose, to acknowledge the lecturers, the professors, the supervisors, the people who actually did the hard work of grooming, of nurturing, and of supporting, encouraging, and pushing the graduates that are here before us. Also, this morning, we awarded an honorary degree doctorate on Mr. Mandlalanga. Now, if you're within the university, call him Dr. Mandlalanga here at Fort Hare. He was here. He made a very, very powerful, moving speech, acceptance speech, and we're very grateful that he accepted. Unfortunately, he couldn't sit through this session, so he left earlier. Members of the University of Fort Hare community, there's staff, there's students, and of course, they are partners of the university. But very importantly, the families of the graduates, they are here, and the graduates themselves. I think the graduates, they look so nice this afternoon, they deserve just now a good round of applause, like really good. I thought it was going to be better than that, but fine, okay, all right. It's afternoon, we will. Yes, the reason why here is to celebrate. That's what graduation is about. Graduation, I was looking for a metaphor that would fit, that I could use that signifies what we're doing here this day, that comes to close as an example of what we're doing here tonight. The only one I thought about, and again, pardon me for this, I was short of examples. It's you know, when a young man graduates from Bukwenkwe, right? It means we are sharing as same vine of the Skwenkwe. Our behavior was Skwenkwe, our cooking and it's a terrible metaphor here. But it's quite useful as a way of thinking about graduation, because you move away from a student. You are now a professional. These are now before us professionals who have chosen different pathways into the future, into their future, into the development of the country. So that's what it is. It's a rite of passage. And the rituals, all the things that we do, the songs that we sing, the gowns that they wear, the very beautiful hats that they put on, and all of those things, they are part of this ritual that we do every now and again in the university to celebrate success. I think it's very important, and many of you will know that these graduates before us, many of them supported themselves. They paid their way into the university, but many of them got support from sponsors, from donors, from families, from all sorts of other, from government, from NSFAS, and all of that. And I think we need to acknowledge, in their absence here, all the sponsors, all the parents, all the people who made an effort, whether it was financial or in kind. Let's give a round of applause for those. The university has 6 faculties. This morning, we graduated students in humanities and social sciences, students in management and commerce, and students in management and commerce. I'm repeating the same thing. Education, yes, I could hear. Students in education, so graduates in education. This afternoon, we're graduating science and agriculture, health sciences, and law. Oh, how could I forget law, Mr. Kadru? And law, okay? So it's quite, as you can see, it's quite a lot, but this morning it was quite bigger than this. And they came from different places. Some are students who continued with their degrees, and the next and the third degree. Others are people who kind of went into the labor market and came back to pursue studies. But I want to single out one who stands out. Last semester, we had a special graduate with a PhD because she was 78 in May, 78. Most of us here are still far from 78, but she did her studies and at 78 graduated. And it was in the health sciences faculty, a retired nurse. And once again, I just want to say and acknowledge, once again, Mrs. Mayeye, who is here graduating her PhD in nursing sciences, and is 72 years old. I think we can give that a round of applause. Actually, even if I know these things are not done, but I'm going to ask her to wave so that we see. Yes, thank you very much. Right. So the lesson here, if you're in your 30s, you're still very fit to study. In your 40s, you're very fit. In your 60s, you're still very fit. In your 70s, you're right there. So all of you, especially parents and partners and all of that, we expect you to sign up for degrees next year, especially the 60 and 75-year-olds. I'll sign them up myself. I also want to acknowledge people we work with different partners, and again, we acknowledge them as and when the occasion requires. Today, I just want to acknowledge partners, again, in the health sciences field. We have people here from the Department of Health in the Eastern Cape. We have Dr. Moko, we have Mr. and Mrs. Mangola, and we have Ms. Tinsilana. They're here visiting, or rather, as guests of the Department of Health. But also we have, there's another program that I need to single out this afternoon in health sciences. It's called the Albertina Sisulu Executive Leadership Program in Health. It's called ASELF, Albertina Sisulu. These are people who started as fellows and then last year signed up for a master's degree, Master of Public Health, and this is the first cohort that's graduating. They come as a block. There are 27 of them graduating, and once again, we can give them a round of applause. These are professionals in the field, so they're not full-time students. They came and did a block release kind of program, and we're very proud and pleased that they've graduated. which then brings me to the question of Albertina Sisulu. Last week, the University of Fort Hare and the University of Pretoria held a joint memorial lecture in Pretoria to celebrate Albertina Sisulu's 100 years. It was an extremely successful event. We had the deputy minister there, but we had a whole range of other people. And once again, Albertina Sisulu was a nurse by profession. And I think it is fitting that we acknowledge her today as these health professionals kind of come through and follow in her footsteps. And we can give that a round of applause. As I finish, I just want to, our time is very tight, so we're going to appeal to us to do this, to be a little bit kind of, to be organized a little bit. But we want you to celebrate hard. That's allowed. It's allowed. Okay? But just make sure that ezo ziduko zakho zingadezophumela kolandelayo. Mazihambe nomuntu wazo zilandele umuntu wazo kuphela. Yes. So unike nabanye chance so that when we applaud and sibonga sisithini xa kungena olandelayo, let's give that gap for the next one. We need to hear every name here. And everyone wants their name to come through. And just to say again, I'm always struck by this, the wonderful kind of clothes and fashion that people bring to graduation. And today seems to be no exception. Imibhaco ikhona, nezinye zikhona, nezazihlangu zisolo kakhulu zikhona, nilumke kwanyo apha ke ninganiwisi. As I said again, this is time for graduation. Please celebrate hard. The choir is here. If you want to, if you want to sing along with the choir, please do so. If you want to stand, just don't jam up the aisles. Just do it in your area. If you celebrate hard and so on. I've neglected to acknowledge one other person, a visitor, but also a partner for the University of Fort Hare from the same program, Albertina Sisulu Leadership Program, and that is Dr. Tabi Somokola from the University of Pretoria. Thank you, and you're welcome, sir. Now, one last thing. I just want the graduates to show us how hard they can celebrate. I'm going to give you half a second. So if you want to do it now. All right, I thought it was going to be harder, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vice Chancellor, for those words of acknowledgement and words of welcome. I'm sure we all feel welcome. Also, you urged us to remember that we are in a celebratory mode, and so in that mood, I now request the University of Fort Hare Choir to render a musical item. Fort Hare Choir.
Ulule
Thank you so much for Te Choir. I see that you're still standing. Was there another item coming up? Okay, all right. Last one. Oh, I'm so glad that we allowed that item. For the choir, isicingisa into ezininzi nezinye izinto. Thetha ngamawele. But thank you so much to the Forte Choir for that rousing musical item. I think we all feel welcome and are now in that proper celebratory mode. Thank you so much, Forte Choir. I shall now read the citation of our keynote speaker by way of introduction. Our keynote speaker for this graduation ceremony is T Bonakele, who is the Commissioner of the South African Competition Commission. T Bonakele has been with the Commission for the past 10 years. He briefly left the Commission in March 2013 and came back in October 2013 as acting commissioner. He was in this position until his appointment as the commissioner. Mr. Bonakele has occupied various positions in the commission's core divisions. He was appointed deputy commissioner in 2008, and prior to that, worked as head of mergers, head of compliance, and senior legal counsel, respectively. He established the Commission's Cartels Division and has worked on all of the Commission's major cases over the past 10 years, including the bread and flour and construction bid rigging cartel cases, Telkom and SAB, that is South African Breweries, abuse of dominance cases, and a number of high-profile mergers. He has been involved in negotiating most of the Commission's groundbreaking settlements and helped develop the Commission's corporate lenience policy, as well as the construction fast-track settlement policy. Mr. Bonakele is an admitted attorney and previously practiced with Chidul Thompson and Haysom in Johannesburg, largely in the areas of labor law, regulation, and health and safety. He has also spent a year working in corporate finance and antitrust groups at Clifford Chance in New York, in their New York office. He occasionally teaches competition law at the University of Fort Hare, Wits University, and is a fellow of the University of Johannesburg's Center for Competition Regulation and Economic Development. He publishes in academic journals and writes for newspapers and business magazines on competition matters. He holds a B. Juris and an LLB degree from the University of Fort Hare, and an MBA from the Gordon Institute of Business Science, GIBS, University of Pretoria. Mr. Bonakele currently serves as the chairperson of the African Competition Forum and is a member of the International Competition Network Steering Group. The guest speaker, Mr. T Bonakele, will now address the congregation. Mr. Bonakele.
I'm not used to a pulpit. Thank you, Program Director, members of Council, Vice Chancellor, and leadership of the university, professors, lecturers, and staff in general, student leadership, the SRC, fellow members of the convocation, parents, family, and friends, to our graduates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. 2018 marks 20 years since I addressed the graduation ceremony of the class of 1998 in this very same hall. It is therefore truly a special moment for me and a singular honor to come and congratulate the 2018 class of graduates. I remember those trips back in the days, taking a taxi from East London to King Williamstown, and you had to change and take another taxi from King Williamstown to Alice. And I remember this particular day when an old lady politely asked the driver to remind him when he passes a particular village. I think that the driver knew the village very well, and so the conversation was quite quick. So off we went from King Williamstown to Alice, and as we were approaching Fort Hare, we could see it. The old lady asked the driver if he had not forgotten about her and her village. And then the driver slammed the brakes, said, "I'm very sorry," and apologized to all the passengers and said, "We have to go back. We have passed the village." So off we went back towards King Williamstown. And then the driver said, "Mama, here is the village. We are very sorry once more." The old lady then took out her parcel and said, "Thank you very much. My daughter said I must take my pills when I pass this village. We may proceed." Those were the joys of the journeys to Alice. On a day like this, it is also very important that we honor and celebrate those who have sacrificed a lot to support and educate the graduates we are celebrating today. There are many sacrifices that goes with educating an African child. And on a day like this, we have to remember those who made those sacrifices. Some are here, some are not here, but we must celebrate them nevertheless. Parents, grandparents, siblings, cousins, and with your permission, Program Director, I think we should give these, as graduates, a standing ovation. I think you should stand in honor of those who have sacrificed so that you graduate today. And you can also give them a round of applause. With the limited time I have, you can take that as the first lesson. Never ever forget where you come from. Those who helped you along the way. There is no such a thing as self-made success, self-made graduate, self-made businessman. I hear this all the time in popular media, and I really do wonder if those who are referred to as self-made really believe that they are self-made. If you honor your past, you would want to preserve your legacy. You would not want to dishonor your past by stealing from the poor, by greed, and by doing everything to oppress those you are supposed to be bringing light to. If you honor your past, you would want to preserve institutions such as the University of Fort Hare that has given us so much as a nation. I have said in one occasion, I was addressing, the VC was there, that particularly disturbing at times is that when we are having our own disagreements, you see people banning a university. This is a discussion we must continue to have with the current generation of students and their leaders. Because people forget that it's not government that built this university. It is the people. And it is that legacy that we seek to honor. And if you honor the past, you would want to emulate Nelson Mandela, Govan Mbeki, Robert Sobukwe, Chris Hani, to mention but a few of these universities' illustrious graduates. Honoring and respecting your history will help you to fulfill the very purpose of education and contribute to human progress, starting with your own families and communities. It is also by respecting this history and our communities that our journey of learning never ends. For as the youth, even as graduates, we must continue to learn. We must learn from those who came before us, some of them with little or no formal education, but they have such important lessons to impart, such as values of hard work and serving our communities. Of course, you also have worked very hard, and I take this opportunity to congratulate you, and I join the Vice Chancellor in encouraging you to celebrate. This is a moment of celebration. I also congratulate the University of Fort Hare on this occasion of a graduation. It also marks a very important milestone for the university itself, and I've heard about the growing numbers of PhDs produced by Fort Hare. 65 this year I'm made to understand. So congratulations, Mr. Vice Chancellor and your staff for the sterling work that you are doing. I'd also would like to congratulate in absentia Dr. Mandla Langa for obtaining the honorary PhD from the university today, and once more thank the university for being so thoughtful, because I do think that Dr. Langer has done so much, including his recent fantastic work on the life during the presidency of Nelson Mandela. Mr. Director of Ceremonies, every patriot, every revolutionary, every generation is haunted by the question once posed by Lenin to his countrymen at the beginning of the past century. What is to be done? The words of Frantz Fanon haunts my generation. And I quote them: every generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. When I addressed my fellow graduates 20 years ago, I recounted to them a period when students used to boycott graduate ceremonies. There were many reasons for these boycotts. And one of the intriguing paradoxes of the time was that to be a graduate meant that you needed to kneel before a racist bigot who represented the power of the racist state. Graduating, a moment of affirmation for the graduate, would also be a time to bow before a subjugating power. One of our famous fellow alumni and former Chancellor, O.R. Tambo, wrote that in their generation, they never used their graduation gowns for graduation parties. There was simply no time, and I suspect no means to party. Today, we are enjoying our graduation under conditions of freedom that we should never take for granted. My generation, who are the first to bear the fruits of freedom, are haunted by the spirit of Solomon Mahlangu. So we have to ask ourselves the question, what is to be done? This is why when we are confronted and haunted by this question, often we blame the previous generation. When we are thinking about our own limitations, we would say that, well, Nelson Mandela could have done better. After all, if Nelson Mandela had done better, our land would be back. If he had done better, our economy would be in our hands. All the time, we think that Nelson Mandela, despite all the sacrifices he made, he should have done better. What we never ask is, what about us? So this is the question that I pose to the graduates today. What is to be done? What will you do? Nelson Mandela himself, I think, was humble enough during his lifetime to say that it is in your hands now. In other words, he didn't see himself as a messiah who's going to solve all your problems. It is in your own hands. Obtaining a degree is one of the pinnacles of human endeavor. For those of you obtaining the degree, you are joining an elite in society constituting a very small percentage of our population. You have reached the beginning of what I call the burden of knowing. Today, you are formally recognized as qualified persons in various fields of knowledge, advancement, and henceforth, you will be honored as an alumni of this glorious university. As you graduate today, perhaps we need to keep the message brief. Ignorance is bliss. Knowledge is a burden. No one puts this better than Paul Freire in Pedagogy of the Oppressed when he says, and I quote, "Men and women develop their power to perceive critically the way they exist in the world with which and in which they find themselves. They come to see the world not as static reality, but as a reality in the process of transformation." In other words, education should equip us with the necessary critical faculties to understand our reality as constantly changing and constantly needing change, as well as see ourselves as the very agents of this change. Graduates are not there to just believe assumptions. Academics test assumptions. There was a graduation ceremony not so long ago at the University of Stellenbosch. And a PhD student summarized his thesis. And he basically looked at the interaction between a wealthy suburb and an informal settlement. Residents of the suburb were very concerned that there was an informal settlement that was growing close by. At first, it started with one shack, as they usually do, far away. Then they built more shacks, and slowly they were approaching the suburbs. The people of the suburb were very worried. What is going to happen? We have an informal settlement that is going to devalue our houses. We are going to have crime, and so on. Up to a point where the informal settlement had now almost reached the suburb. And then something happened. The informal settlement people started demolishing the shacks and moving further away from the suburb. And this PhD student was looking at this phenomenon and interviewed people from both sides. People from the suburbs said, "We did nothing, we don't know why they are moving away. Anyway, we are happy." The people from the shacks said, "We are moving away because we are tired. People from the suburbs are thieves. They are stealing our things. In the shacks, we are used to leaving things outside. We don't lock, but things are disappearing since we started moving closer to the suburbs." As academics, we test assumptions. There is nothing that is given that is unchallenged. It is for this reason that at a point of graduation, we should never stop asking questions. The burden of knowledge creates a sense of restlessness. The more you know, the more you realize that there is more to know. Hence, the quest for more knowledge and learning is a lifelong commitment. So my second message to you is that you have now not finished learning. You have not finished studying. Our country needs more educated people. We need to see you wearing the red gowns now. So you have just started. Many of you are going to go to join the field of work. You are going to start learning from there. You are going to learn to be nurses. You are going to learn to be lawyers. You are going to learn to be the professionals you would want to be. Of course, as we learn, there are challenges that we are going to come across and we are going to confront, because we are graduates in a society that has got so many challenges. We now know that our country faces a massive social problem. Our crime rate is very high. If you've been listening to the debates in the past week about rape, you would be very concerned. So we are a nation with a huge social problem. There is a social disorder amongst us. We are a nation in economic decline. We were once a superpower, an economic superpower of Africa. We are now the second largest economy, and we are growing at less than 1%. We are an economy with very high levels of unemployment. You are joining that economy. So you are better equipped than those with matric. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean it's going to be a bed of roses for you. So what is to be done? The first thing is we need to organize ourselves as a people. We need to recognize that in industry, scale and innovation matters. A lot of you who join professions are going to be running sole proprietor businesses. We know that you are going to make very little progress in changing the professions when you do that. It is important that we organize ourselves as a critical mass of professionals and entrepreneurs so that we can solve real problems of our people with new products, with new services, solving our own problems. So when people don't have water in villages, we expect that your innovation is going to solve those problems. Our people have challenges of agriculture and productivity. When you join hands together, you will be better placed to respond to those. The second thing is the state. We are now, as a people, have democracy. We determine who governs, but we also leave these people. We do not hold them accountable. And often we are spectators. It is the responsibility of graduates to take leadership. You are going to be led by people who are uneducated, misinformed, and ignorant if you stand by the way and let them. And when they mess up, you do not have a right to blame them. If you yourselves decide that you are going to live in the comfort of your suburbs, your cushy jobs, it is your responsibility to dirty your hands, building a nation that can win, building a capable state that can deliver services to our people. So we have to engage in civic and political activism to shape our own future. Lastly, it is very important also that we continue building our education system. We are beneficiaries of the education system. We have to plow back to it. In our schools, at our universities, when you leave this university, don't turn your backs on it. It must continue to produce future graduates that are going to make our nation a winning nation. We must look after our education and focus on those subjects that make us a winning nation, such as mathematics. Those of you qualified in these areas, you have to go back to your schools and empower those who come after you. The attitude of the knowing lot, that is yourselves, graduates, should not merely be fixated with paychecks, the cushy job and title, but rather it should be fixated with seeing the country and her people making progress. Education that obtained is not yours. You are going probably to do very well because you have it. But remember, you were given that privilege. Taxpayers paid for you to be here so that once you are finished, you can help South Africa make progress in many, many fields of endeavors, the fields that you have now qualified on. So go on to serve your people. Thank you.
Shall we give another round of applause for our keynote speaker? Thank you so much, Commissioner Bonakele, for challenging us, encouraging us, forcing us to become more reflective citizens of this glorious nation. Thank you so much. I shall now request the choir to perform another choral item, after which we shall move on to the conferring of degrees and awarding of diplomas. When we get to that point, we urge and request supervisors to keep citations for doctoral candidates as brief and succinct as possible in the interest of time. Forte Choir, could you please give us an item as we move into the conferring of degrees and awarding of diplomas? Okay, we shall request the choir a little bit later after the Vice Chancellor.
We shall now, honored guests, proceed with the awarding of qualifications. I request the candidates to take up their positions. I shall then call on the Dean. I shall then call on the Dean of the faculty to present the candidates for the various qualifications.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Jaja Ismail Festus. And in the absence of the candidate's promoter, Professor V. Muchenje, I will now call the head of department to present a brief profile on the research.
It's just that. Yeah. No.
All protocols observed. Jaja Ismail Festus. The profile reads as follows. His study highlighted a significant knowledge gap regarding meat safety and hygiene among farmers, abattoirs, butchery workers in the formal and informal meat sector. On the other hand, the study identified a high prevalence of multi-drug resistant and resistant determinants in bacterial isolates from the formal and informal meat sectors. 5 research papers have been presented at international and national conferences. 5 manuscripts have been submitted for publication, with 1 accepted for publication, while 4 others are still under review. Jaja Ismail Festus' title of the thesis reads as follows. Knowledge of meat safety, isolation and molecular characterization of resistance determinants in some foodborne pathogens in the Eastern Cape Province, South Africa. Supervisor, Professor V. Muchenje, and co-supervisor, Professor E. Green. Thank
you. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Agriculture in Animal Science on Jaja Ismail Festus.
I hereby confer the degree. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Nandapo Carlos Waisin Tawanda. I will now call the head of department, Dr. Mpendulo, to present a brief profile on the research.
Nandapo Carlos Waisin Tawanda. His PhD research was conducted in South Africa with an exchange part in Argentina. He investigated the use of Moringa oleifera leaf powder as a replacement to antibiotic growth promoters in broiler feed. Growth performance, carcass characteristics, immune organ indices, gut microflora, meat, physicochemical and sensory quality of the broiler chickens were studied extensively. The study revealed that Moringa oleifera significantly improved some carcass characteristics, gut environment, bed health, physicochemical and sensory quality of broilers. To date, he has presented his work internationally, published 1 peer-reviewed journal, and 4 other papers from his PhD are under review. Nandapo Carlos Waisin Tawanda. This is title reads as follows: Effect of replacing antibiotic growth promoters with Moringa oleifera leaf powder on growth performance, carcass characteristics, immune organ indices, gut microflora, physicochemical and sensory characteristics of broiler meat. Supervised by Prof. Muchenje and Prof. Hoffman.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Agriculture in Animal Science on Nandapo Carlos Wyson Tawanda.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Washaya Soul. I will now call the head of department to present a brief profile on the research.
Saul Washaya, unfortunately from what we have, a wrong profile has been mistakenly placed, so I'm going to read the right profile from this expensive tablet I'm carrying. Okay. His study examined the effects of forage legumes, lab, purpose, and Vigna unguiculata on hematological parameters, methanogenesis, and meat quality of Xhosa lobe ear goats. The study confirmed that forage legumes can supplement concentrates, reduce methane production, and have no adverse effects on the health of the goats. To date, he has presented papers at national and international conferences. Furthermore, he has published a paper in a peer-reviewed journal with 3 more papers from his PhD under consideration. The title of his thesis reads as follows: Effects of Vigna unguiculata and lab purpose on methanogenesis, hematological parameters, and the quality of meat from Xhosa lobe ear goats. Supervised by Prof. J. Mupangwa and Prof. V. Muchenje.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Agriculture in Animal Science on Washaya Soul.
I hereby confer the degree. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Ngumla Ntombekaya. In the absence of the candidate's promoter, Professor Bradley, I will now call Professor Mabinya to present a brief profile on research.
Mr. Chancellor, distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to present to you the profile of Ntombekaya Ngumla. Ntombekaya's thesis investigated the effect of Russian wheat aphid, RWASA1 infestation on the wheat Triticum aestivum, chloroplast proteome under increasing carbon dioxide levels. This study shows that the resistance of the resistant wheat cultivar SST347 to RWASA1 is due to the upregulation of specific resistance and defense proteins, such as the alpha amylase inhibitor, and the upregulation of the oxidative and photosynthesis-related pathways. The study provides evidence that the resistance mechanism of SST347 is due to the upregulation of specific defense proteins and oxidative pathways, as well as the maintenance of the photosynthetic mechanisms. Even though RWA-SA1 causes severe chlorosis, and that at elevated carbon dioxide levels overcome the resistance of the resistant wilt cultivars. 3 manuscripts are at different stages of preparation for publication. The title of the thesis reads, Identification of Differentially Expressed Proteins in the Wheat Chloroplast Proteome during Russian wheat aphid infestation under increasing carbon dioxide levels.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Biochemistry on Ngumla Ntombekaya.
I hereby award the degree. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Olanian Lamidi Wahid Babatunde. I will now call the candidate's promoter, Professor A. Oko, to present a brief profile on the research.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I am pleased to present this profile of Olaniyan Lamidi Wahid. Olaniyan's doctoral research focused on evaluating the effect of human and ecological exposure to 2 important endocrine disruptor molecules, specifically named for octylphenol and triclosan in our popular Buffalo River in the Eastern Cape province here. Suffice to say that the study revealed elevated concentrations of these important compounds, which are noted to be at hazardous level, thus suggesting the high risk of exposure to these compounds in this water. I'm pleased to inform you that 3 papers have been published from this work, and indeed, the latest one is published in the Journal of Environmental Management and Toxicology with impact factor 7.0. So, Mr. Vice-Chancellor, it is my honor to present this candidate.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Biochemistry on Olaniyan Lamidi Wahid Babatunde.
I hereby confer the degree. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Ajogri Shadrach John. And in the absence of the candidate's promoter, Professor Ajibade, I will call Professor Oko to present a brief profile.
Vice Chancellor, Ajogri's doctoral research focused on the synthesis, characterization, and evaluation of photophysical and electrochemical properties of ruthenium-2 complexes, particularly for dye-sensitized solar cell production. To summarize, it's important to note that the synthesized complexes has immense potential for the production of solar cells, which are very important in electricity generation. Chancellor, I'm pleased to present this candidate for your captain.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Ajogri Shadrach John. I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Chemistry on Ajogri Shadrach John.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Kurajena Caroline. And in the absence of the candidate's promoter, Professor Casey Banda, I will now call the head of department to present a brief profile on the research.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, it's an honor and a privilege for me to present the profile of the first female PhD graduate in the Department of Computer Science, Caroline Kurajena. Her thesis reports on the trust management in the Internet of Things. She proposed a scalable trust management model that enables entities on the IoT environment to communicate and cooperate based on trust evaluation. The model evaluation results show that the trust management enhances security and privacy in the IoT environment. The results also showed the importance of including distrust in the trust model in order to prevent inside internet network attacks from malicious entities. The research has been presented at an international conference. One peer-reviewed conference paper was published from the research, with one journal paper still under review. The thesis title is as read, A Scalable Trust Management Model for the Internet of Things Environment. Supervisor, Prof. K. Sibanda, Co-Supervisor, Prof. M. Tinyan.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Computer Science on Kurajena Caroline.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Iotiom Enoch Terumum. I will now call the candidate's promoter, Dr. Mazinho, to present a brief profile on the research.
Thank you, Dean, and good afternoon to everybody and all the beloved. Sorry, my eyes are quite bad. Results from the pioneering study revealed a link between government-funded projects, sustainable maize production, enhanced food security, and better livelihoods for the beneficiaries. His work has made a major contribution towards understanding the complexity of the dynamics involved in the evaluation of project impacts on natural resources management and its implications for agriculture, food security, and the rural economy. Enoch has also published an article. 2 papers are currently under review. He presented at international conferences, including the one in Ghana, international conference there, and the one for the Society of Geographers, South African Society of Geographers. Because his family is so far away, he asked me to mention his wife, Suzanne, his 3 children, Gerenter, Seyuter, and Lian Nader. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Geography on Iotiom Enoch.
I hereby confer the degree. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Ngwira Collins Major. I will now call the candidate's promoter, Professor C.E.P. Sithal, to present a brief profile on the research.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, calling Major Ngwira's thesis is entitled Urban Governance and Spatial Justice Challenges, a case study of the Buffalo City Metropolitan Municipality in the Eastern Cape Province, South Africa, from 1994 to 2015. The citation reads as follows. Recognizing the multifaceted problems that citizens engaged in with the local state in post-apartheid South Africa, calling Ngwira's research focused on urban malgovernance and the challenges in intergovernmental relations amongst the different spheres of government on ordinary citizens' struggles for spatial justice in Buffalo City, South Africa, from 1994 to 2015. Contextualized within the Just City debates, and particularly Niekerk's spatial justice theoretical framework that highlights the reciprocal relationships between space and justice and space and injustice, and in which spatial injustice is recognized as the production and reproduction of domination, repression, and exclusion in space, Ngwira utilized the intensive research design and chose the Buffalo City Metropolitan Municipality as his case study. Ngwira's research discusses the role of city managers, bureaucrats, politicians, and other stakeholders in unauthorized, fruitless, irregular, and wasteful expenditure, in corruption and maladministration, in the bypassing of supply chain management protocols, in interfering in the appointment of contractors and in the irregular awarding of contracts, in under and non-expenditure of budgets and grants, in poor record management, political infighting, and meddling amongst politicians in the city's administration, and how all these variables impacted negatively on the municipality's functioning and the associated problems with service delivery. Nguera's research highlighted how all these elements of malgovernance cumulatively produced and reproduced spatial injustice, especially in Duncan Village and in Dansane. In addition, Nguera's thesis documents the urban conflicts that characterize the contested spaces in Buffalo City as disadvantaged and neglected communities fought for spatial justice. To date, Nguera has submitted 2 papers for publication. He is a resident of Mzuzu City in Malawi. He is currently chairperson of the Department of Geography at Mzuzu University, which is Malawi's 2nd largest university. I thank you.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Geography on Nguera Collins Major.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Diban Tennyson Honoriode. And in the absence of his promoter, Professor LCOB, I will now call the head of department, Professor Nodo, to present the profile.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed my pleasure to present the profile of Mr. Diban. Mr. Diban Tennyson's thesis focused on molecular characterization of HIV-1 and seroprevalence determination of hepatitis C antibodies from pre-HAT patients in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa. The study revealed the prevailing patterns of transmitted drug resistant genotype, co-receptor usage, and molecular diversity of HIV within the study population. Amino acid sequences from the results has been deposited in GenBank. Findings also support the need for the establishment of national HIV drug resistance database, regular surveillance, and genetic studies as pertinent steps in providing updates on HIV virus circulating within the study population. About 4 manuscripts have been submitted for publications from the study. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Microbiology on Diban Tennyson Honoriode.
I confer the degree. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Dube Kalote. And in the absence of his promoter, Professor Clark, who is late, I will now call the head of department, Professor Nodo, to present a brief profile on the research.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, once again, the thesis of Colette Dube investigated the inhibitory potentials of anti-urease compounds extracted from different honeys on the growth of multi-drug-resistant valcolatin and CAG pathogenicity island-positive Helicobacter pylori strains cultured in acidified growth media. Survival of H. pylori in acidic environment of a human stomach is attributed to urease enzymes. The study revealed that anti-urease active compounds in honey are bactericidal to different strains of H. pylori under acidic conditions. The findings provide a strategic baseline of targeting urease enzymes to treat H. pylori infection, especially drug-resistant strains, which are becoming a concern globally. Again, about 4 manuscripts have been extracted from this research and submitted to different journals for consideration. The research was funded by NRF as well as GMRDC, amongst others that assisted. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Microbiology on Dube.
I hereby confer the degree. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Ido Ayodeji Akindele. I will now call the Head of Department, Professor Nodo, to present a brief profile on the research.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, the doctoral research of Mr. Idou focused on the prevalence, diagnostic methods, and molecular characterization of Helicobacter pylori strains obtained from patients with gastroduodenal diseases in Chris Hart's Baragwanath Academic Hospital, Soweto, South Africa. Approximately 2/3 of the patients investigated were infected with the bacteria, with individuals expressing different types of stomach pathologies. The study revealed reliability of 3 different diagnostic methods, carbon-14, UBT, PCR, and CLO, for accurate detection of H. pylori infection. Phylogenetic analysis showed H. pylori population haplotypes from 2 geographical regions. 3 manuscripts are under consideration from the research. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Microbiology on Ido Ayodeji Akindele.
I hereby confer the degree. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Mukesi Munyaradzi. I will now call the co-supervisor, Professor A. Oko, to present a brief profile on the research.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, with profound gratitude to the South African Medical Research Council and the National Research Foundation for funding this project, I'm pleased to present the profile of this graduate. Mukesi's research focused on the isolation and characterization of Streptococcus agalactiae from pregnant women, as well as elucidation of the antibiogram profiles of the pathogens, as well as exploring the potential of the use of some medicinal plants for the treatment of infections caused by this important pathogen. The study found that 37% and about 14% of pregnant women tested positive for Streptococcus agalactiae in the Eastern Cape province and Windhoek, Namibia, respectively. And the bacterial isolates from both countries were genetically closely related. The isolates were sensitive to most antibiotics used for empirical treatments of infections caused by this pathogen, and to leaf extracts and essential oils of the plant olea. While the pathogen's resistance against some antibiotics is increasing, the plant extract appears to be a reliable treatment alternative. 4 manuscripts have so far been submitted to some DHET recognized or accredited journals for consideration for publication. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Microbiology on Mukesi Munyarazi.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Pekana Abongile. I will call the candidate's co-supervisor, Professor A. Oko, to present the profile.
Vice Chancellor, again with profound appreciation to the Medical Research Council for funding this research, I'm pleased to read the profile of Pekana Abongile. His doctoral research was based on the characterization of Staphylococcus aureus isolated from raw milk and cow carcasses from selected dairy farms and abattoir in the Eastern Cape province. The findings, amongst others, elucidated the antibiogram profiles, the virulence gene markers, and the evolutionary patterns of transmission of Staphylococcus aureus strains in the province. 1 article has been published for this work so far, and 3 other manuscripts have been submitted to some DHET accredited journals for consideration for publications. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Microbiology on Pekana Abongile.
I hereby confer the degree. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Sianako Christina Tsepiso. I will call the candidate's co-supervisor, Dr. Green, to present a brief profile on the research.
My VC, Sianako Christina Tsepiso's PhD thesis investigated the bioactivity and mechanism of action of the seeds of Persea americana, namely avocado, on some selected bacterial pathogens. Persea americana seeds extracts demonstrated that the potent antibacterial activity was the possible mechanism of action of avocado seeds extracts was clearly elucidated in her study. The results suggest strongly that cell walls and membranes were the targets. The antimicrobial and mechanism of action of the seeds extracts discovered in this study can help in drug development and further provide interesting lead for new antibiotics 2 manuscripts have been prepared and submitted for publication. The thesis of Sianejo Christina Tsepisho's title was By Activity and Mechanism of Action of the Seeds of Persea americana, namely avocado, on some selected bacterial pathogen. Thank you.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Microbiology on Sianejo Christina Tsepisho.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Kahumba Absalom. I will now call Dr. Mopipi to present a brief profile on the research.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, it is my honor to present to you the profile of Kahumba Absalom. His PhD research conducted in Namibia investigated the impact of land use practices on vegetation, soil, and carbon nitrogen sequestration potential in Mopani rangelands of central northern Namibia. The study revealed that the land use practices greatly affected the vegetation and the ability of the land to store carbon and nitrogen. These findings recommended management practices relevant to restore vast degraded communally used grazing lands of Namibia to optimize the land's productivity and therefore its ability to produce ecosystem services and goods to sustain resource-limited communal land users. 2 of his 5 chapters produced were presented at the 53rd Annual Congress of the Grassland Society of Southern Africa. I thank you.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Partial Science on Kahumba Absalom.
I hereby confer the degree.
There's a mistake in my degree. This is the correct one. Doctor of Physics. Okay.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Ovren Ochuko Calvin. I will now call the candidate's promoter, Professor Meyer, to present a brief profile on the research.
Vice-Chancellor say, Ovren research focused on the thermal evaluation of a prototype energy-efficient low-cost house. A passive solar house in Solar Watt Park at the University of Fort Hare, Alice, was used as a case study. The findings of the study reveal the thermal benefits of a passive solar houses as a replacement for low-cost housing in South Africa. The study also provides heating and cooling load models as a tool for evaluating the thermal performance of existing and non-existing houses in South Africa context. 2 papers have already been published, and 3 papers are under review. Thank
you. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Physics on Ovren Ochuko Calvin.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Kenya Jane Jerry. I will now call the candidate's promoter, Professor D. Okeyo, to present a brief profile on the research.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, the title of the thesis is Anthropogenic Effects on Sustainability of Fish Biodiversity in Tume River, Eastern Cape, South Africa. In her PhD thesis, Jane examined the effects of sustainability of fish biodiversity in Tume River that were caused by human activities. The study established that only 11% of Tume River habitat remains near natural. The second finding is that two highly endangered fish species, the Eastern Cape Rocky, scientific name Sandalia benzai, another one, border burb, scientific name Barbus traveliani, exhibited reduced distribution due to the river habitat alteration by humans. While de jure, this is related to post-Rio measure, has been nationalized by South African laws, which has polluter pays principle, the de facto, that is actual community participation in Tume River Valley was low. The thesis then undertook economic study in quest for mitigation measures for the deterioration of the river basin. Results from 209 residents interviewed revealed a high percentage of individuals willing to pay an additional 32 rands on their monthly water bill to restore degraded 5 ecosystem services, namely quality water, habitat for fish and wildlife, streamside vegetation, ecological reserve, and pristine conditions. 3 manuscripts for publication are currently at different stages. The National Research Fund, NRF, and Govan Beki Research Development Center, GMRDC, at Fort Hare funded the study, while the Department of Water Affairs and Sanitation supported in kind. I thank you.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Zoology on Kenya Jane Jerry.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Bulelwa Mayeye. I will now call the candidate's promoter, Professor Goon, to present a brief profile on her research.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, Mayeye doctoral study questioned the effectiveness of the 2013 South African antiretroviral therapy Act guidelines in addressing context-specific art challenges and needs of adolescents and youth for optimum adherence to art. Therefore, the study focused on developing contextual guidelines for adherence to art among adolescents and youth in Bafut City. Informed by the outcomes of a mixed method research, the facilitating factors for art adherence were perceived benefits and consequences of non-adherence to art, social support, and positive attitude of health professionals. However, reasons for non-adherence to art were clinical side effects, disruption of the school program, stigmatization, long hours of queuing at the clinics, and lack of program and peer support. Although most of the adolescents and youth were knowledgeable about the importance of adherence to art, the adherence level was suboptimal. From the findings, a multi-sectoral collaboration among the departments of health, social development, education, and the community on aspects of art adherence concerning adolescent and youth is desirable. 2 manuscripts have been submitted to peer-reviewed and accredited international journals for publication. Thank you.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor, Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Nursing on Bulelwa Mayeye.
I hereby confer the degree.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Nonyaniso Trustina Nkutu. I will now present a brief profile on her research. In this seminal work, Nonyaniso Trustina Nkutu employed a mixture of quantitative and qualitative, descriptive, and theory-generating research designed to develop a model for retention to graduate of undergraduate nursing students at universities in the Eastern Cape in South Africa. Based on extensive empirical exploration of the factors leading to dropout of undergraduate nursing students at universities in the Eastern Cape and conceptualization of the main concepts, organization and development of relational statements, the candidate developed a conceptual framework which culminated in a description of the model. Multiple levels of triangulation approaches ensured scientific and academic rigor, including credibility of the study. Guidelines for the operationalization of the model in nursing education were described. The relevance and original contribution of this model to the science of nursing has been established through presentations at local and international conferences. The model for retention to graduate of undergraduate nursing students at universities in the Eastern Cape is unique in the context of nursing education and the first in South Africa. Nurse educators can use the model for their scientific, specific situational context. 2 manuscripts have been submitted for peer review in accredited journal, and 1 has been published. Scholarship awards by Health and Welfare SITA supported the candidates to complete the study. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Nursing on Nonyaniso Trustina Nkutu.
I hereby confer the degree. Congratulations, ma'am.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Agriculture in Agricultural Economics on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mpangolo Nomalungisa. Extension.
Congratulations. Just delete.
Okay. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Science in Agricultural Economics on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Ijila Olusegun Jeremiah. Extension. Okay. Ngwenya Sydney.
Congratulations. All right.
Nikelo Nqaba Benedicta. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Agriculture in Agricultural Extension on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Qozo Odwa.
Congratulations, Mnumzana.
Ngiva Jabulani Emmanuel.
Congratulations.
Sikoto Wandisile Richard.
Congratulations. Yep.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Science in Agriculture in Animal Science on the persons whose names appear on the program. Buthelezi Lindokuhle Sizwe.
I hereby confer the degree. Congratulations.
Dube Hlengani Paul. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Science in Agriculture in Crop Science on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Sevene Admire Rukudzo. Computer science.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Science in Computer Science on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Adeniji Victor Oluwatopila Boba.
That's a difficult name. Congratulations.
Banderson Vivian.
Congratulations.
Horticulture. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Science in Agriculture and Horticultural Science on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Yafta Viwe.
Congratulations.
Kabanda Florence.
Congratulations.
Matafeni Ntombekaya. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Science in Microbiology on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Bukani Sive. Dlamini Ziyanda Confidence.
Congratulations.
Kibungu Katbeth.
Congratulations.
Mzukwa Asisipho.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Science in Agriculture in Pasture Science on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
One to Violet to Hamilton.
Congratulations.
Uzasiphamandla Zikhali.
Congratulations, Mr.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Science in Physics, cum laude, on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Let him Buma Karin.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Science in Agriculture in Soil Science on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mcinga Sixolise.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Science in Zoology on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Fasi nokonwaba Nelineth.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Philosophy in Environmental Studies on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Kali Pamini Nomampondo Mrs. Cynthia.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Magister Curationis on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Sukiswa Theodora Dasheka. Bukelwa Green. Noluthando Mkhanzi.
Siphokazi Amanda Ngoma. Ushena Benedine Okafo. Angelina Tenjiwe Sifatsa. Nwabisa Somkhala. Delcia Jill Nora Teblanche.
Congratulations.
Nolusindi Soyonto.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Public Health, cum laude, on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Fabian Charlton Bennett.
Congratulations.
Nonhlanhla Zamxaka. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Public Health on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Kulekani Zakeleni Damini.
Congratulations.
Nomfanelo Miriam Jack. Andrew Mandeya.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Nomahlubi Dorcas Maekiso.
Congratulations.
Angelina Priti Mbombo. Ntokozo Clarice Mkize. Nqobile Mkhwanazi. Nobom Tozana Nyamana. Oloritomin Florenzo Mudupi. Victoria Kabonina Molokome.
Congratulations.
Kungelwa Patricia Mkhwebi.
Congratulations.
Nomalanga Ndlovu.
Congratulations.
Garfield Obed Gacheni Ndlovu.
Congratulations.
Miriam Ndwandwe.
Congratulations.
Nomvume Sinoria Nchanga.
Congratulations.
Maureen Ngumalo.
Congratulations.
Jacob Mohapi Choki Rakumakwe.
Congratulations.
Dikeledi Hilda Selepe.
Congratulations. Sorry.
Sithembi Nkosi David Siangapi.
Congratulations.
Tolani James Tofu.
Congratulations.
Nozibele Yvonne Chamase. Madoda Kokwe.
Congratulations.
Okay. Mr. Chancellor, Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Laws, cum laude, on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Chiwara Messi.
Congratulations.
Still, yeah. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Laws on the person whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Chikomo Unico.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Philosophy in Human Rights on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Muka Simtembile.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Agriculture Honors in Agricultural Economics on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Nuhu Sakibu.
Congratulations.
Okay. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Science Honors in Computer Science on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Fatumo de Ebenezer. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Science Honors in Geography on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Makoliso Sisanda.
Congratulations.
Mbukwa Phumelelani.
Congratulations.
Sifunza Patrick.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Health Science Honors in Human Movement.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Health Sciences Honors in Human Movement on the person whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Amphendule Diko.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Agriculture in Agricultural Economics on the persons whose names appear on the program. Joboda Kola.
Congratulations.
Matheneliswa Mampinga.
Congratulations.
Mkaka Lupiwe.
Congratulations.
Tlaninge Momelezi boys.
Congratulations.
Zochontontela Vuyile Bele.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Science on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Manaka Saliwe Paer.
Congratulations.
Yanda Binas.
Congratulations, Yanda.
Elmas Masizake Boy.
Congratulations.
Phumza Spesihle Fiani,
Congratulations.
Azukiwe Hlahla,
Congratulations.
Zinzi Kula,
Congratulations.
Sinovuyo Macingwane, Janet
Congratulations.
Yanela Mbambo,
Congratulations.
Siphumze Mlonyeni,
Umzane. Congratulations.
Ncediswa Mxoko,
Congratulations.
Lubabalo Mzamo,
Congratulations.
Yonela Ngwembe,
Congratulations.
Simbongile Ngonyama,
Congratulations.
Nicolette Sianyuka,
Congratulations.
Inganathi Sinxo,
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in Agricultural Economics on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Malimba Babalwa Faith,
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in Animal Production Science on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Eja Sondelani,
Congratulations.
Madanda Tobile,
Congratulations to you.
Maphuma Samkelisiwe,
Congratulations.
Nakani Ncebakazi,
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in Crops and Soil Science on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Zimakwe Mziwenkosi,
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, in Livestock and Pasture Science on the person whose name appears on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Ndabankulu Khululwa Pheliwe,
Congratulations.
Samse Yamkela,
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to confer the degree, to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in Soil Science on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Blom Nobesutu.
Congratulations.
Fada Wanga Mhlangwandile, Mahlangwandile.
Congratulations.
Manakaza Cwenga.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Baccalaureus Curationis on the persons whose name appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Sarah Aua. Noxolo Mdlankomo. Dolly Babalwa Zathu.
Ladies and gentlemen, the students who have successfully completed the Baccalaureus Curationis degree take the pledge of service. It is also a time when other nurses present reaffirm their commitment to the profession. I will request all of you to rise. The lamp in your hand is a symbol of those who keep vigil over the sick. I'm now reading the meaning of the lamp. It is a symbol of nursing profession that those who nurse should be a light unto others. It indicates that you are prepared to develop your profession and to practice it in the light of science, which are the building blocks of medical and nursing science. It confirms that you are prepared to carry out your professional acts in accordance with the legal and ethical codes of your profession, and that you are prepared to care for man in his uniqueness with knowledge and compassion. It is a symbol that indicates you are prepared to be the following for those who need your help: the eyes of the blind who are sick, the power of movement for those who cannot move, the hands of those who do not have the strength to care for themselves, the comforter for those who grieve, the nourisher for those who cannot eat, the protector of those who are helpless and those who are vulnerable, the mind of those who are unconscious, the intermediary between the doctor and other members of the healthcare team and the patient, the advocate to those who have health problems. It confirms that you are a professional nurse. You, as a professional nurse, are committed to submit to the discipline of your profession. It gives you the reveille of nursing. Let the oil of knowledge and of love always ensure that your lamp burns brightly.
I solemnly pledge myself to the service of humanity and will endeavor to practice my profession with conscience and with dignity. I will maintain by all the means in my power, the honor and the noble traditions of my profession, the total health of my patients will be my first consideration. I will hold in confidence all personal matters coming to my knowledge. I will not permit considerations of religion, nationality, race, or social standing to intervene between my duty and my patient. I will maintain the utmost respect for human life. I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Health Sciences in Human Movement Science on the persons whose name appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Mfingo Lugodlo, Yonwabisa Mahlanza,
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to award the Advanced Diploma in Clinical Management of HIV/AIDS on the persons whose name appear on the program.
I hereby award the diploma.
Nozake Dlula, Sipio Amigo Fihlani, Zianda Nondabula, Bonelwa Onele Potlongo,
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Laws on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby confer the degree.
Marshal Inga Pongoza,
Congratulations.
Abongile Sympathy Chaga,
Congratulations.
Noluvuyo Nombina Diniso, Daniel Emmanuel Edwin Hampel,
Congratulations.
athi aphiwe Jozana.
Congratulations.
Isaac Khomotso Kabinde.
Congratulations.
Kamagu Kosani.
Congratulations.
Onele Sinawo Labase.
Congratulations.
Zukisani Ndipiwe Maduna.
Congratulations.
Ahlomile Mafu. Nontsikelelo Manuku.
Congratulations. Congratulations again.
Dlundlu Machila.
Congratulations.
Bongi Wembishe.
Congratulations.
Unati Prudence Maduna.
Congratulations.
Siphokazi Musa Mjali.
Congratulations.
Mawonga Molose.
Congratulations.
Cwenga Lwando Mqingwana.
Congratulations.
Yamkela nazo.
Congratulations.
Buhlenda Bambi.
Congratulations.
Sinovuyo Nqele.
Congratulations.
Bomikazi Njova.
Congratulations.
Kifilwe Jininkahle.
Congratulations.
Tombizanele Nochati.
Congratulations.
Mondekazi Nomvalo.
Congratulations.
Yanto Yanto. Sibanda Divine Branding.
Well done.
Siyolise nomawonga Sigonyela.
Congratulations.
Sandisiwe Bonginkosi Sijila. Lungiswa Christine Songo.
Congratulations.
Swanelo Tamako.
Congratulations.
Kamani Chacha.
Congratulations.
Sikhotywa Kati.
Congratulations.
Nokuphiwa Wisani.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to award the Diploma in Local Government Law and Administration on the persons whose names appear on the program.
I hereby award the diploma.
Mapombo Sinokolo Asanda. Songa Stella. Sorry. Twachuka Tumisani.
Ladies and gentlemen, shall we join hands in applauding all our graduates? Well done and congratulations. Well done indeed. And as part of our celebrating this achievement, I shall request the choir to give us a choral item. Forte Choir.
That's
once again, thank you. Thank you so much for Te Choir. That was very well done. Thank you. Now, I shall request, on behalf of one of the major stakeholders of the university, the president of the SRC, to come forward and address the graduates and the rest of the congregation. SRC president.
Secretary General.
We are wrapping things up. Can you please have some semblance of order? Can we please take our seats? Shall we please take our seats? Shall we settle down? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Greetings to everyone. I'm not the president. I'm the Secretary General of the institution. I own the name of Mascole and Ndlela. All protocol observed. I would like to take this opportunity to first thank the parents, to thank the graduates, also to thank our choir there. Yabona Dumzi Yakuba. And also, I would like to take this opportunity and also acknowledge our former leadership and current leadership who are amongst us here. The likes of Ahlomile Maf, the former SG. I recognize you, SG, former. The likes of Sutu, the likes of Scott, the current president of postgraduates. But you remain as a chairperson because we have one president, judge. Yes. I would like to pass this message to our graduates. As we all know that in life, and life is never easy. Now, today you are graduating, meaning you are taking another step. We understand ukulala ungalali ulala ungatyanga because of you are chasing it deep. Ayipopi deep kunzima. People are not sleeping because they want to succeed. Bafike kulanto yokuthiwa igrade. Yes, today we are celebrating your graduation. We are celebrating your success. Amandla enu. And you should bear in mind that in as much as you are here today as a graduate, it doesn't mean you have achieved everything. You still have a long way to go, because at the end of the day, you need to go and give back to your families and give back to your community at large. And I would encourage graduates to say, stop this thing of you after graduating. Koma Johannesburg, living indoni ikhaya lakhe without developing. We need to graduate and also bring back to our communities. To develop our communities, our backgrounds so that development is spread and groom those young ones abangazinto in terms of those people who do not know uba mabathini from here, step from grade 12, you should go there and encourage those people abahleli pha emakhaya bengenzi into. And also, because I'm a very short person, lastly, I would like to pass this to our graduates, that in whatever you do, you should remember where you come from and ensure that you know where you're going. I thank you. Sabule.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. I shall now request the representative of Council of the University of Fort Hare to come forward and address the congregation. Please come forward, sir.
Mr. Program Director, the Vice Chancellor, the dignitaries here present, let me say all protocol observed, because I know that our graduates would like to go and celebrate. It's Friday today, honestly. I won't be long. However, I think that I'm carrying out one of the most important tasks that we have in our culture as Africans, that of thanking. You know, sometimes it is taken lightly. Ndithunyiwe ke kulomzi wakano college okuba ndithi sibamba ngazibini kuni nonke. Okokuqala mandiqale kuni bazali, the parents, for all the encouragement, all the sacrifices that you have made, and all the pain that you have gone through. We know how expensive it is to maintain, children at university. But thank you very much. Then let me thank, our distinguished professors who are sitting here on the podium for the work that they've done to mentor the students, to encourage them, to cajole them, coach them, in order that they succeed and be who they are, the graduates that they are today. I would also like to thank, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Sakela Buhlungu, and his management team for the sterling work that he has done since he was employed as the Vice Chancellor of this university from the 1st of February 2017 up to date. And I want to say, as I said this morning, and want to repeat that, say, your stewardship, has been quite flying high, and thank you. You are actually holding the flag very high. I would like them now to thank that wonderful choir, for the lovely African music and African sounds. And I think that you should give them a hand. And of course, lastly, to our graduates, this is your day. And we really thank you for the efforts that you have made to succeed. But then what is success? Because what you'll find is that life is a struggle that is made up of many battles. And this is just only maybe the first, the second, the third battle, But you really are still, in training. There's been a boot camp. You haven't started fighting the battles because you have just been rehearsing for the life outside. That's where it starts. It doesn't care whether you wear a red gown or a black gown. However, in so doing, let me thank Ichwaha, Mr. Bonakele, you know, for the wonderful speech. That I felt very proud, sir, to be associated with someone like you. You know, what he was saying in particular was that you have got to go out there and create the jobs and not wait for the jobs to come to you. So thank you very much, guest speaker, for your lovely speech. And as I do my concluding remarks, ndifuna ukuthi kuni nonke abebelapha nabo bebefuna ukuza apha abakwazi ukuza sibamba ngazibini siphinde kwakhona we want to thank the team that is of the registrar, office of the registrar and his team for all the wonderful work that they've done in preparing this. KwaXhosa ke xa sibulela sithi kuni sibamba ngazibini amaqobo namaqobokazana angalala endleleni niyazini uba kunyembelekile sithi nokhonongo maze gushibele enangamso kuba sizawuphinda size apha kweli ziko kwakhona kwangolu hlobo ekugqibeleni ndibulele umbhexeshi nkqubo. Thank you very much, Program Director, for such a wonderful program. And gogo xa nihambayo niphuma apha angawuthixo anganani nithi niba na kwezo ndlela noba niyaphi na kude noba niyakufutshane kwangavuka amanqilo odwa kwindlela enihamba kuzo kuthiwe maniphele kuloo ndawo. Enkosi.
The question is always, who thanks the person who proposes the vote of thanks? Enkosi, Dr. Lupuana, and thank you all for ukubambisana this afternoon. I now call upon the Vice-Chancellor to dissolve this congregation. After the Vice-Chancellor has spoken, the congregation will sing the national anthem. The choir will thereafter render a musical item whilst the academic procession leaves the hall. Vice-Chancellor.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the congregation, I thank you, the graduates, the parents, and other guests for your interest in the university and for your presence at this graduation ceremony today. Under the powers vested in me as Vice-Chancellor of the University of Fort Hare, I now declare this congregation dissolved. I now request you to stand while the national anthem is being sung.